Good morning. It is Tuesday morning here in Mexico City. It's a little bit grey, but it's Tuesday, which means it's time for another Tantra Tuesday, so welcome. Today, I'm unpacking the view. In the previous installment, I shared the view of tantric teaching, non-dual Shaiva tantric teaching. And today, my intention is to pretty much go through it line by line or sentence by sentence and give more of an unpacking and more of substantiation around it from my learnings and my understandings. And hopefully that aligns with maybe what you've experienced before and will be of service. Okay, so the view. If you want the view in its entirety, please go and see the previous installment where I share a little into it and give a full reading of it. And this is from Tantra Illuminated by Christopher Harish Wallace. So the view. All that exists throughout all time and beyond is one infinite divine consciousness, free and blissful, which projects within the field of its awareness a vast multiplicity of apparently differentiated subjects and objects. That's pretty dense. So let's try to break it down a little bit. All that exists. So this is the idea of the non-duality, that everything that exists, has existed, will ever exist, is just one divine consciousness, one infinite divine consciousness. So the idea of thinking behind this is that everything that we experience, or everything that can be experienced in this reality, is done so through conscious awareness. It's a product of awareness. And whether that be the individual reality that we experience in our thoughts and in our dreams, etc., or the shared reality that we experience, the world around us, it's all done so through conscious awareness. Nothing that we can conceptualize is done outside of our awareness or someone's awareness in general. And so the existence of something beyond awareness is nonsensical, because how would we know? And so everything that we experience is done so through conscious awareness. And even in the postulating of something, whether it be real or not, is also done through awareness. And so nothing that exists is done outside of that. And so everything is said to be a product of awareness. That is the foundation, the fundamental of the reality in which we exist. And that this divine consciousness, this one singular consciousness, I'll go into it a little bit more in a second, is free and blissful. And it projects into the field of its awareness a vast multiplicity of apparently differentiated subjects and objects. So this is saying that everything that does exist, whether it be subject or object, an object is something that is known, something that can be perceived, and a subject is that it's a bubble of consciousness with the added quality of self-reflexiveness, the ability for it to have this element of self-awareness or awareness, its ability to not just be an object of awareness, but to view an object in and of itself. And this speaks into the dualistic nature of reality. So the idea is, with this one consciousness, I kind of see it as consciousness is the dreamer, and manifest reality, everything that exists, is the dream. And all of us, everything, is an expression of that one consciousness. It's also called the ocean of awareness, and everything that exists is like a bubble or a wave within that ocean of awareness. It's an individualized expression within the blanket or ocean of awareness that is not different from, it's intrinsically a part of, but it has a unique expression. And this divine consciousness, which is free and blissful, it resides in a state of blissfulness, of pure contentedness. Blissfulness for me is this, from my understandings as well, is this idea of complete acceptance, contentment, not wanting anything to be different than what it is. And in such, there is this sense of freedom, because you're not desiring of anything. These actually speak into the three primary powers of divinity. This idea of consciousness, freedom, and bliss. And I'll get into more of that, but this is the foundation trinity of what consciousness is. Because consciousness is so free to do whatever it wants, it projects within the field of its awareness a vast multiplicity of apparently differentiated subjects and objects. So because it is free to do as it wishes, there is this bubble of curiosity to self-express, to represent itself in these apparently differentiated multiplicities. This, the infinite plethora of how reality is expressed, all of the myriad of different bubbles of expression. This is this one divine consciousness choosing to express itself in these myriad of ways because of this freedom that it possesses and this curiosity to know itself through these representations, this actualization of timeless potentiality in the inherent in the light of consciousness. So it's saying that this consciousness, this one universal, infinite consciousness, has this timeless potentiality inherent within itself, this ability to present itself as the infinite of expressiveness. That because it is infinite and all potentiality resides within it, and as a result of its freedom, it chooses to express itself through all of these multiplicity of differentiated subjects and objects, as the tangible reality, and as consciousness expressed through individuality of subject, of people, of animals, of all of the things that has the capacity for awareness, the capacity to observe the objects of reality and kind of look back at itself. And each subject, you and I, the same plus a contracted locus of self-awareness. This is sort of speaking into. So as well as being an expression of consciousness, we have this ability to be self-aware, this ability to not just look out, but to look within. This creation, a divine play, is the result of the natural impulse within consciousness to express the totality of its self-knowledge in action, an impulse arising from love. It's so beautifully condensed. There's a lot in there to unpack, and I've spoken a little bit into it, but I'll do a little bit more. This creation, so this expression, all of these bubbles of consciousness, these individualized waves of consciousness on the blanket or ocean of awareness. Imagine, like in a dream, you have this dream space that is consciousness, and over here there is a bubble of representation of that, and over here there is something else that looks different, and over here there is something else. It's all the one fabric, but a different wave or different expression, a different representation, all happening at the same time. They appear different, but actually they're one and the same. A divine play. So play is used here because it's speaking into the idea that this is done purely for the joy inherent of doing it. The idea of play is that there isn't a particular goal in mind. There isn't something that's needing to be achieved. It's simply done for the joy of doing that thing. We have a conflation, I feel now. We play sport, but it's become competitive. It's become object-oriented. I see this with Olympics as well. You end up having this passion for something, and maybe you found this in your life as well. You have this passion for something, this internal desire for something to be expressed through you. And then because of how we celebrate achievement, and we I don't want to use the word celebrate, but we exaggerate the importance of having to achieve something. And that kind of degrades the inherent joy found within doing that thing. You look at Olympic athletes, what once was the passion of doing the thing, doing the event, doing that action, has now become replaced with having to become the best, become the achiever of the accolade. And I see when I look at a lot of sports people, especially very much at the top, is they're not doing it because they enjoy it so much anymore. They're doing it because they want to win. And so it's lost that sense of play where it's done purely for the joy of doing that thing. And this is what the universe does. The universe creates itself purely for the joy of doing it, not to achieve anything. It speaks into this in the expansion, but it's this idea that the universe isn't maneuvering itself into a better space. It's already divine. It's already, perfect in that sense. And you can't get more God than it already is. It's perhaps we can get more in alignment with the actual truth of it, but it's already divine as it is. And this natural impulse within consciousness to express the totality of its self-knowledge in action. So this natural impulse, self-knowledge and action speaks then into the second triad of the powers of divinity, the powers of God. This willfulness, this urge to self-express, and self-knowledge, this knowing, and action, being able to take action into the world. So it speaks into this is the order in which the powers of God express itself in the totality, but also they express themselves through us in individuality as well. This impulse, this urge within us to experience something. And then from that bubble of inspiration to self-express, then comes the knowledge required to do that. And then the action to actualize that desire based on the knowledge. And it's arising from love. And again, this idea of love, I asked for a definition, and it's the union of Shiva and Shakti, or the union of masculine essence and feminine essence, which I love as a definition of love. And what it's speaking into, that this love is the joyful play, or the joyful artistic play of self-expression. It's consciousness's desire to express itself, and doing so from a joyful place. The unbounded light of consciousness contracts into finite embodied loci of awareness out of its own free will. Okay, so this is speaking into how consciousness, this divine consciousness, becomes the individuated self. So because of its free will and its desire to self-express, it contracts into a finite embodied loci of awareness. So it necessarily forgets itself, its infiniteness, and becomes a limited expression. When those finite subjects then identify with the limited and circumscribed conditions and circumstances that make up this phase of their existence, okay, I'll carry on. Instead of identifying with the trans-individual overarching pulsation of pure awareness that is their true nature, they experience what they call suffering. Okay, this is speaking into why we experience suffering in our existence. And what it's saying, essentially, is we experience suffering because of the necessary forgetting of our infinite nature. We experience suffering because of ignorance to the truth of what is. And this truth of what is that we are, in our essence, this divine consciousness, this infinite, joyful, free consciousness with the creative urge to self-express, the knowledge to do so, and the ability to actualize that. What happens is, because consciousness necessarily forgets this to become the limited individual expression through us, we experience suffering. We over-identify with our limitation, with our individual essence, and forget the infinite essence from which we came and which truly resides within us. These six powers are always being expressed through us. It's just that we actually forget it. And if we can remember this truth, then we can actually absolve ourselves of the suffering that we experience. The circumscribed and limited cognitions and circumstances. So, infinite divine consciousness necessarily forgets this to become an individual loci of awareness. It becomes an individual wave. And as it forgets this and becomes this individual wave and begins to experience life, this expression expresses itself as thoughts, which then become beliefs, and then become actions and habits. And because we have forgotten this and become so ingrained in how we perceive the world and behave in it, we lose sense of our ability to be blissful and free. We box ourselves in, we limit ourselves into how we conduct ourselves. And because we get so dense in these expressions, these bubbles of consciousness, these waves solidify into how we act in the world in our day-to-day, and the beliefs at the foundation of that, we suffer. And this is, they experience what they call suffering. This is why you suffer, ignorance to the truth. And to rectify this, so to free yourself from the suffering that you experience, some feel an inner urge to take up the path of spiritual wisdom and yogic practice. So again, this speaks into those three powers of will, willing, knowing, and acting. When we experience significant suffering, a lot of us significant suffering, some of us sufficient suffering to recognize that something is off, we take up the spiritual path. There is this intrinsic, built-in, self-correcting compass that we have, which recognizes that something is awry. That to experience this suffering isn't how we're supposed to be experiencing our existence. And so we have this desire, this urge within us to seek knowledge, spiritual wisdom, to then act through spiritual practice or yogic practice to alleviate us of our suffering and return to our divine essence. The purpose of which is to undermine their misidentification and directly reveal within the immediacy of awareness the fact that the divine powers of consciousness, bliss, willing, knowing, and acting comprise the totality of individual experience as well. So what this is saying is that through spiritual wisdom and spiritual practice or yogic practice, through honoring that urge that bubbles from within us, we can undermine the misidentification. We can learn to melt away, dissolve away from the limited attachments that we have ascribed ourselves to, the misbeliefs, limited beliefs that we have about existence and ourselves and reality, and can return to the divine powers of consciousness, bliss, willing, knowing, and acting that are always present within us. They're always available to us. It's just remembering that they're there and how to enact them, thereby triggering a recognition that one's real identity is that of the highest divinity, the whole in every part. Essentially, this is saying to alleviate yourself of suffering is to remember that you are this divine consciousness. You are this infinite capacity to be joyfully free and to express yourself, yes, through the limited expression of your individuality, but you have the capacity to express yourself using these powers. It's the combination of acknowledging or remembering your divinity and honoring your individuality. How consciousness wants to, how infinite, blissful, free, loving consciousness wants to express itself creatively, playfully through you as your individual essence. What it is that you have to contribute through your unique expression, through your unique wave in this vast, infinite consciousness. What is the part that you are in the dream of this landscape of the dreamer. This experiential insight is repeated and reinforced through various means until it becomes the non-conceptual ground of every moment of experience, and one's contracted sense of self and separation from the whole is finally annihilated in the incandescent radiance of the complete expansion into perfect wholeness. This is saying that through continued spiritual practice, it is possible to flip the experience that you're having. So what is typically happening is that you're having moments of divinity. You're having these moments of residing in presence and the joyful presence of awareness. But it's often sporadic and fleeting. You get a glimpse of it, but then it's gone, and then you're back in the suffering of everyday life. And what this is saying is through repeated reinforcement of the spiritual practice, it's possible to flip that and to not just have liberation be the typical experience of your day-to-day, but actually to completely liberate yourself so that you're always in this joyful, creative self-expression where you recognize that you are this divine consciousness expressed through you, getting to enjoy life through the individual expression of you. And what this then speaks into is, well, why do I experience pain? And the thing is, there's a difference between pain or bad things and suffering. Pain is natural. It's a natural and beautiful part of nature. It's a tool to keep us safe. And when we experience pain, we can actually see the beauty of it. And especially even in something like in grief. There's a beautiful quote I love: what is grief if not love persevering? That actually the grief that you're experiencing, the pain that you're experiencing is just an expression of love. What suffering is, on the other hand, is ignorance. Suffering is the ignorance to the truth of what is. And that we can absolve ourselves from through right spiritual practice. Then one's perception fully encompasses the reality of a universe dancing ecstatically in the animation of its completely perfect divinity. Once you can let go of the mind-based suffering that limits you and your experience of reality, then you can have the perspective of being the universe dancing in ecstasy, in complete, perfect divinity. That everything that you're experiencing is being done so because divine consciousness chose to express itself through you, and it's perfect as it is. Even though it might be challenging, that's okay, because it's part of the dance and it's part of the bliss that's being experienced, being expressed through you. It's consciousness knowing itself through your individual expression. And there's two little sections I wanted to just read out because I thought they're so beautiful. When your obscuring mental constructs fall away, you automatically see yourself as you really are, a free being of blissful consciousness, playing with your powers of intent, understanding, and action. So this is saying that when you lose sight of the mental constructs, the limited mental constructs that you've become over-identified with, and these are the limiting beliefs that you have and the stories that you have about yourself and your life and your existence. Once you can get through all of those, and this is what I do with mind yoga, is that there are these knots of consciousness which aren't true and which are inhibiting you from having the smooth, free, blissful existence. And if we can undo those knots, if we can massage them out, if we can allow them to fall away, then you can return to the divine, blissful expression and enjoy playing with the powers of intent, the innate desire for creative self-expression that resides within you and bubbles up within you, with the knowledge of how to actually actualize that, and then to actually enjoy the expression of it. And there's one more sentence or one more little paragraph I want to read. This state of awareness in which you are completely in tune with reality, immersed in your divine nature, is called samavesha. You have touched this state, however fleetingly or incompletely, many times in your life. Recognize it as that state in which you are fully present with yourself and your surroundings, relaxed yet focused, expansive and free yet grounded in your real situation, embracing the reality of what is in the now. This is like being in flow state. This is being in complete presence, that space where you lose your individual sense of self, the limited perceptions of who you perceive yourself to be, and you're just in flow with life. You're relaxed yet focused, expansive and free yet grounded in your real situation. And chances are, whatever you do for joy, what brings you joy in life is this. It's how you touch that divinity again. And it's the remembering that this is who you are in your truth, in your essence nature, your divine nature, and that you get to have that experience all the time, or make it more your experience than not being in that space. And that doesn't have to be, I mean, some of us are wonderfully lucky that we find the thing that we love, whether that be something like sport, or music, or acting, and they get to really make that their life, and they get to be in that presence. And others, we have our hobbies and our passions, and that's where we find that. And when we can return to that, and we can make that experience actually the totality of our experience, even when not doing that thing, that's when we can reside in our essence nature. That's when we can return to bliss and enjoy the freedom of our expression. So that's what I want to say today. And thank you. Thank you for joining me.